Hey guys, let's go over some tips and tricks for winning a buyer contract. So we're in a multiple offer situation on pretty much everything right now, just due to the market being as hot as it is. So I have pretty good success with getting at least the top two almost every time that a buyer is willing to listen. And so let's go over some of those basics. So in your 1 to 4 contract, this is going to be everything's filled out, fairly regularly except for a few things. Obviously, the sales price. That's the most important thing. Is how high are the buyers willing to go? 5 to 10% over is pretty normal. I've seen higher, but with that, you get them to go as high as they're comfortable going, and you can't really encourage them. Sometimes I might encourage them an extra couple of grand, like if they want to go 500K even. I might say, hey, let's go 502, just in case someone thinks I'll go 501, and then we beat them. So, and just get a couple extra grand on that. So don't usually stop at like the middle of the road. It's like 225, 250, 275, 300. Go a couple over. 302, 327, not 325. That way you're going to knock out someone that's just a tiny bit below you. As far as earnest money doesn't really matter a whole lot. Keep that at 1%. So let's talk about $500,000 home. Earnest money is $5,000. Option fee. I like to do $1,000 if they're going to ask for an option at all, and keep it at 7 days. That's too any longer is unnecessary. Any shorter is just gonna not be fun. That's too short a time period. Now you can advise them. They don't even need to. If you're not going to do an option, make sure you have another protection, another back out, like an HOA. If the property is part of an HOA, you have an automatic 3 days after receiving the HOA information back out for any reason. So you don't theoretically need the option, and an offer looks really strong if you don't have an option at all. But if they want the option, go with the higher number, like $1,000. You can try even higher if you want to. If it's more expensive property, make the option higher. Title policy. Buyer pay title is going to win way more than seller pay title. The title policy is roughly 3/4 of the price. 3/4 or 1%. So on a $500,000 home, it's around $3,000. There's an app for that. I use the one called Texas Title Calc. All it does is calculate the title policy cost. There's lots of apps for them. The one I use is called Texas Title Calc, and it's free. You just put in the price of the property, and it tells you exactly how much the title policy is. But go ahead and check buyer. This is going to come out of your buyer's closing costs. It's going to cost them more money out of cash, but it's going to make the offer much stronger. This is pretty normal. Survey, do whatever you see in the MLS. If it says they have a survey, or if it says they don't have a survey. If you can't tell, check the seller's disclosure. Hopefully that's online. If it's not online, ask for the seller's disclosure. But if you don't get it before, you can write a contract, then you have to just guess on this, honestly. So I usually guess with the first box, and I put buyer's expense. If I know they don't have a survey, then I'll put buyer's expense, and I'll put 20 days right here. Uncheck all this crap. Now, objections, you don't fill anything there. I usually put 3 days right here that covers all this other stuff. Now, if it is or isn't an HOA, you check that there. So the seller's disclosure, there's really only a few ways you can get away with not providing a seller's disclosure. The most common ones are foreclosure and estate sale. There's a few other ways, but you don't see those very often at all. And you can check that out on TAR somewhere. They have them listed. Okay, so residential service contract, don't ask for that in a hot market. There's no point. Closing, you want it to be as short as possible. Call their lender that they're pre-approved with and say, how fast can we close? Do you have a close on time guarantee? Find out how quickly they can close. The faster you can close, the better. If you can close in 2 to 3 weeks with a loan, great. Put that in the contract. If the lender says, hey, it's going to take a month, unfavorable, but you got to go with what the lender says. You can ask the buyer if they want to use a different lender that can close faster, like JVM Lending has a 2-week close on time, $5,000 guarantee. I'm not paid to say that. That's freaking awesome. Anyways, so you might run your buyer through JVM Lending. It's the only company I've heard that does that. So possession, this is actually important. If the property is occupied, if you went and saw the property and there's furniture and clothes in the closet and food in the fridge, give them a free lease back. Let them stay there for a little bit so they're not rushed to move their stuff. That's going to make a big impact. If someone's offering less money, but they're offering to let them stay in their house for an extra week, maybe they'll choose you. So I always throw that in there. if your buyer, of course, is open to us. All this stuff is relevant upon what your buyer is willing to do. So this is just what you want to advise them that's going to improve their chances. Settlement, don't ask for squat. We don't ask for money at closing unless it's been on the market for weeks at least. And then check all the relevant whatever you're attached, obviously. Check the MLS. We're starting to see things that aren't 3%. If you see a 2.5%, put that there. You don't want to piss off a listing agent before you do anything. So, whatever's, being listed, leave that as what's being offered in the MLS. If the property's been on the market for a little while, then you can consider negotiating your commissions, but do not do that against your client getting a chance of winning the property. Third-party financing. So here, approval. It used to be a big day. I'm starting to see that people want it to be short. They want it to match the option period. How long is your option period? Is it a week? Then put a week here. They have 1 week to get credit approval. They should already be credit approved. So that's something that's going to help out a lot. This number we're starting to see go up a little bit. This might put 250 in here or higher. This is how much money the buyer is willing to pay towards the transfer of the HOA, and the seller is going to pay the rest. So make this if it's a condominium complex and it's not a house, you might make this a bigger number. It might cost a lot more money to transfer the property through the HOA. This is we're still keeping this as seller because if you don't buy the property, you lose the money. It's kind of, I don't know if I would go with that on the buyer side. You could. I mean, these are all things you can change. But that's pretty much ultimately it. Oh, I'm sorry. One of the more important forms, the due and concerning right terminate due to lender's appraisal. Say that 3 times fast and backwards. So we have 3 options: waiver, partial waiver, and additional right to terminate. This is a pointless clause. As far as I'm concerned, I don't know why you would ever use it. Partial waiver and waiver are the most important ones right now. Now, most of the time we're doing partial waiver. You put partial waiver, and then you put the list price of the property right here. The reason we're doing that is we're saying if it at least appraises for list price, we will purchase the property and we'll pay the remainder in cash. This top checkbox, I'm seeing marked a lot. People are doing this a lot of the time. It's saying, I don't care what it appraises for. I am buying this property and I'm paying the difference in cash. That's what this says. So if your buyer wants to check that, great. If they don't want to check that, this is a safer option. This puts a cap on the amount. So for example, let's say you offered $525,000 and the list price was $500,000. That would mean that if the property appraised for $500,000, your buyer would bring an additional $25,000 in cash to close. Now, if it appraises for like $510,000, then they only got to bring an additional $15,000 to close, and so on and so forth. It puts a cap on the maximum amount. If it appraises below this dollar value, everything is renegotiable. You can try to renegotiate the contract, but the buyer has the right to back out. That's all they can do is back out. It's not like they get money or anything. But those are your basics on how to improve the chance of winning the contract. So hopefully that's going to help out and get you guys some more closings. Good luck.